Incendiary bomb dropped onto a school playground in the north of the country, which has left scores of children with napalm-like burns over their bodies.
It's just absolute chaos and carnage here. We've had a massive influx of what looked like serious burns. It seems like it must be some sort of chemical weapon. I'm not really sure. I need a pause because it's just absolute chaos and carnage here. We've had a massive influx of what looked like serious burns. It seems like it must be some sort of, I'm not really sure, maybe napalm, something similar to that. Like it must be some sort of chemical weapon. I'm not really sure. Like it must be some sort of, I'm not really sure, maybe napalm, something similar to that. Like it must be some sort of chemical weapon. I'm not really sure. Like it must be some sort of, I'm not really sure, maybe napalm, something similar to that.
The air is still thick with the smell of whatever liquid, whatever chemical it was that was dropped here. And it's hard to imagine and hard to describe the horrors of what the pilot did that day.
They arrived like the Walking Dead. We don't know for sure what was in the bomb, but the injuries and debris suggest something like napalm or thermite. There were no shrapnel injuries and little blood, just appalling burns.
More coming? More?
Among the medics here...
Dear United Nations, you're recalling peace. You're calling for peace. What kind of peace are you calling for? Don't you see this? Don't you see this? What do you need to see? We're just human beings. We want to live, you know? Isn't it our right to live? Isn't it?
In a basic hospital funded by handouts, the emergency...
Good day, I'm Andrea Mitchell, live in Washington. President Obama promised action if the Assad regime crossed his red line. The White House has now confirmed preliminary evidence of chemical weapons that were used in Syria. So what are the next steps?
And speaking of South Carolina, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, he's with me now. Senator, thank you very much for joining us. Your reaction now, because we understand it was your letter along with that of John McCain that revealed this intelligence. They responded to you in a letter, as Wendell just quoted, that our intel does assess with varying degrees of confidence that the Syrian regime has used chemical weapons, they say on a small scale in Syria. Your thoughts?
Well, they say moderate to high probability. The Israelis a couple of days ago confirmed from their intelligence sources the use of chemical weapons. Our European allies have confirmed from their intelligence sources the use of chemical weapons. Our people say moderate to high probability. When you talk to the Syrian opposition, they'll tell you 100% from their point of view they've been, Assad has used chemical weapons against their people. So I think the red line's been crossed, and the question is now what?
The administration has come to the conclusion fairly rapidly that they have to act. The president did draw a line in the sand, and that line has been crossed and now crossed repeatedly and crossed to an even greater extent. So the administration really has to act. I think certainly with what Secretary Kerry said yesterday, the administration has made the decision to act. And once you made that decision, I think delay is really not in your favor.
I know the White House has been putting a lot of caveats on this. They say that there is preliminary indications. They don't have a chain of custody. What did Secretary Kerry tell you about how concrete the evidence is?
Well, let me share with you that the expressions that the administration uses are along the lines that you've just expressed, but at the same time, as you know, The British, the French have also looked at this situation, and I think that we're at a point now where there's a general consensus that yes, indeed, the regime is beginning to use sarin gas or use chemical weaponry that can create mass
it's clear that the president believes that he has to make a response to this deplorable use of chemical weapons, and certainly the way that the administration seems to be calibrating this is to take advantage of this period to advance our broader core security objectives as well. But it is a very complicated issue.
During our investigation for crimes against humanity and war crimes, we collect some witness testimony that that made to appear that some chemical weapons were used, in particular nervine gas, and what appeared on to our investigation that that was used by the opponents, by the rebels, and we have no indication at all that the government, Syria, the authority of the Syrian government have used chemical weapons. Of course, now the special commission that the Secretary General put in place will investigate and tell us what it is exactly. But I was a little bit stupefied that the first indication we got, they were about the use of nervine gas by the opponent.
If Bashar al-Assad used chemical weapons or even moved them, you know, that I would change my calculus. That would be a red line for me. Trapped.
Yes.
Trapped. Now, curiously enough, that was August 20th, 2012. On August 21st, at least they had the wisdom to wait an interval of a year and a day, there were these sarin attacks, nerve gas sarin outside of Damascus. And immediately John Kerry got up. This was the 30th of August, and he said, Bashar al-Assad did it, Bashar al-Assad did it, we know that the regime. Okay, well, what was the evidence? The evidence was so squishy that, to their credit, my colleagues at the CIA wouldn't prepare the kind of intelligence assessment that is always required in a case like this. And so Kerry went to the White House and they get a government assessment. Now, I've been around 50 years in Washington, right? 30 of them in the CIA, and I've watched it closely since. This was a new genre. There never had been a government assessment, but to their credit, they had refused to sign on to this. So Clapper and the others put out this government assessment, and it was a crock. We know now that sarin gas was shipped through Turkey. The precursors were, and they were assembled by rebels, and it was the rebels that did that. But only a few people knew that at the time. We did, and we published on it. The president knew about it too. That's one reason why he ceased and desisted and didn't start a shock and awe against Syria.
Can you really offer no details on the hospital that the U.S. accuses Russia of hitting?
We're going to stand by Mr. Kirby's words.
You're not even going to say where it is, that hospital that you are saying Russia hit?
What we're saying is that we have seen information that Russia is targeting civilian infrastructure.
But
and we would point you to the Syrian NGOs on the ground, as well as open source reporting on that.
He spoke about a specific hospital in Syria. Where exactly is it? What details can you offer about that hospital?
Again, I'm not going to get into this sort of detail of operational assessment for this. Maybe you should speak to the Russians on their targeting.
Well, actually, they have.
Clearly, either she or her colleagues have spoken to the Russians about it, and they say that you're wrong. Okay? isn't it incumbent on you to come up with some, I mean, even a location? It doesn't seem like it would be that difficult or violate any kind of intelligence sources and methods to say where exactly it is that you're talking about when you make the accusation. That's the first thing, and then the second thing is you just expanded it quite broadly to say not just hospitals. You said that the Russians are actually targeting civilian infrastructure.
Thank you, Matt. Actually, the Russians have hit. Thank you for the
Are they targeting?
No, they've hit. And
okay, so they're not targeting civilian infrastructure?
No, and thank you for that.
Ma'am, well, details are especially relevant. This morning, the Russian Defense Ministry has released images and video of the hospital in Sarmin, which was allegedly hit by Russia. And these images, they show the building of the hospital, which doesn't look like it was recently bombed. I printed them out just in case you haven't seen them. I can show them. Can you see why it's important for the U.S. to show its evidence of the alleged destruction of a hospital by Russia?
How about this? I'll take your question. If there's information we can share, we'll get back to you. Okay.
What I know is going to happen now in Bab al-Amr. The army will enter Bab al-Amr. They will have revenge on the families that live there. They will take out the revenge on the families. They will torture women. They will torture the kids. They will steal every single thing they find in the houses. They will break shops. They will burn houses down. And this is going to go on for a week. The problem is we've got no outside help. We want doctors to come in. We want the world to know what's going on there. And no one's helping us. No one's doing anything about this. And it's been nearly a year. But now there's media. What is killing this regime is the media we're getting out. If it wasn't for the media, we would have more than 200,000 dead now. The media is the strongest power for us getting the story out. Why would they stop? There's not one family who hasn't got a relative shot or injured or killed. They will never stop.
Until you saw this with your own eyes, did you believe that this could happen in the modern world?
No. I knew this was going to happen from the beginning of the revolution. I didn't know it would take this long for us to finish it. I thought he would do that in the 3rd or 4th months of the revolution. But he's just doing it slowly. His father did it fast. His father killed more than 60,000 in 1 month.
Do you think it's inevitable that he will fall?
He will fall. He's not staying. I have a belief. Everyone believes he's going to go. He is not staying anymore. We will keep fighting. He kills us all. We will not stop fighting this regime. He has killed everyone we've loved. He has killed every single guy I love, all my friends, all the guys everyone in Homs has been injured or shot. There's something I want to clarify. I want the world to know this. The government will attack anyone who's trying to get the truth out. They're told Al Jazeera is sending in pills, drugs with Al Jazeera on them so they can make us high and go and demonstrate. I bet they'll start saying CNN is sending in pills with CNN written on them drugs. The government will attack anyone, any person who's trying to get the truth out.
You've been very upfront of the fact that you went there to join the Free Syrian Army, that you wanted to join. So you're not pretending to be an impartial journalist.
No. I want to, and I still want to join the Free Syrian Army if they would accept me. I would love to join the Free Syrian Army to protect my country.